We're so happy to welcome you to this particular wellness seminar. As you know, these are seminars that we have to build community and also to showcase some of the work that Sheri Sobrato Brisson has really helped us with in terms of providing these types of opportunities for us to connect with you. You know, with Sheri, all of the things she's doing is creative. The app, the book, Digging Deep is all about painting murals. So it allows expression. I think she has used the art to heal herself by giving it back to others. This particular webinar is based on art and creative aspects of healing. And it is particularly important to us in neuro-oncology at UCSF because of the beautiful art that we have in our clinics. So any of you who've had to come to our clinics probably see adorned on our walls these gorgeous paintings done by Chris Harden, and also photographs, beautiful photographs that were taken by Becky Hansen. And all of these remind us of the importance of the healing aspects of the creative arts. And we just want to welcome you to then hope you find some peace and beauty in what we have to share with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Patrice. That was beautiful music. That was harpist Patrice Hahn, who's a harpist, singer, and songwriter. We'll be hearing more from Patrice in our After the Show segment, which is going to be an experiential segment, which I hope you can stay around for. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're joining us live or viewing this later as a recording, we're so happy to have you with us. My name is Naomi Hoffer, and I'm the program manager for the UCSF Sheri Sobrato Brisson Brain Cancer Survivorship Program. And this webinar is part of our monthly Living Well After Brain Cancer Treatment webinar series, which is a segment of our growing survivorship program in the UCSF Neuro-Oncology Clinic. This program also provides wellness classes, neurocognitive consultation, exercise counseling, peer support, and other opportunities for learning and connecting with others living with brain cancer. So today I'm really excited that we are going to be focusing on the healing power of expressive arts. This is not a webinar about learning the skill of art as much as it is about accessing and allowing the flow of creativity to come from you in any form. I am delighted today to have a wonderful group of panelists to help us understand more of this topic, our palette of panelists, shall we say. Jena Leake is an artist, registered expressive arts therapist, educator, and consultant who is passionate about supporting others in becoming artists of their lives. Over the past 20 years, Jena has been designing and facilitating expressive arts trainings, workshops, and retreats in a wide variety of settings, including universities, mental health agencies, public schools, art galleries, museums, hospitals, and through the Art Life Studio in Charlottesville, Virginia, she founded and directed. Jena currently serves as the director of Art for Recovery program at the UCSF Helen Diller Family Comprehensive Cancer Center. And joining Jena in this discussion are three wonderful survivors who will offer us a personal perspective of how art and creative expression have played an important role in their wellness and healing. Kat Shotz, Ben Pax, and Jennifer Neale. We will hear more from each of them as they unfold some of their stories and artistic perspectives a bit later on. Thank you to all of our panelists for being here today to help us learn more about this topic. I will now turn it over to Dr. Jena Leake.
Thank you, Naomi. What a beautiful introduction. It's such an honor to be here this afternoon, this evening with you. And I'm so excited for all of you to meet this incredible group of artists who are our panelists this evening, and really the heart of our sharing. So whenever I'm going to keep my part brief because of that, but whenever I lead a presentation or a group, I always keep in mind that any one of us could have chosen to be anywhere else, but we chose to be here. So I want to take a moment for all of us to arrive in this space together and to connect to what really brought you here to this webinar. So if you like, I invite you to join me in a mindful awareness practice of just dropping into the moment, and I invite you to close your eyes if that would help you tune in to yourself, because we're going to be listening a lot this evening. And I'd like for you to just have a moment of listening to yourself. So we're just going to breathe, arrive, and get curious of what might unfold during our time together as we explore the healing power of the expressive arts. So take a deep breath. And notice what brought you here. What are you curious about? Or maybe a wish you have of something you'd like to learn or experience during this time together. And then I'd like you to take a moment to reflect on one way that you express yourself creatively in your everyday life. So maybe it's journaling or cooking, perhaps gardening or painting or listening to music. So just take a moment to notice one way that you creatively express yourself or engage with creativity in everyday life. And when you have that in your mind's eye, it's like you're being an artist here, just tuning into the moment and tuning into your own creative practices. If you were engaged in that creative activity, how would it make you feel? So when you're engaged in your own creative expression or taking in the creative expression of someone else, how does it make you feel? So for some people I know, when they're engaged in creativity, they feel happy or peaceful. Sometimes stress falls away for the moment, or a sense of calm arises. So just for yourself, notice how you feel when you connect to your own creative expression. And really just this moment of pausing and listening within is a creative act in and of itself. So we're almost like musicians, just tuning the instrument of our being by listening within, arriving, breathing, and getting curious. And then as you're ready, I invite you, if your eyes are closed, to bring your awareness back to this Zoom world that we're in together. I like to start in this way of just having us reflect to ourselves and connect to the ways in which we are creative in everyday life, because you're probably so much more creative than you even realize. So creativity is just part of being human. We are all artists. We are born as artists. If you watch a young child at play, sometimes they are singing and dancing and painting and drawing and telling a story, sometimes all at once. And chances are you, as a young child, expressed yourself freely in that way as well. So my practice as an expressive arts therapist is to support people in tapping into that natural, spontaneous expression, to reawaken the creativity that is already within us. So I practice in the field of expressive arts where we use visual art making, writing, dance, drama, music, all forms of creative expression as an opportunity to explore our inner lives, to find ways of reimagining our lives, particularly if we've experienced trauma or illness, and really discovering how the arts can bring healing and renewal. And you're going to hear a lot about that this evening from our wonderful panelists. What I found in my work with cancer survivors in particular is that the expressive arts can bring joy, a sense of reducing stress and pain and anxiety, and also can create a way of developing coping skills for living with the fears or uncertainties that can come with living with cancer. I found that in working with survivors that 94% of patients described that they could gain new coping skills for living with cancer simply by picking up a paintbrush or writing in a journal, expressing themselves creatively. So there's a palette of possibilities, and when I'm creating with others, there's no right or wrong way to create. There's only your way. And so we're inviting this natural expression of play, of experimentation, of connecting to things that you love and the things that bring you joy. And for each person, that could be really different. And you'll hear some of those many ways of exploring the arts this evening. But I'll share a few examples from some of the survivors that I have worked with. One is a woman who for many years has been living with cancer. And when she first began her treatment, she started painting and she started drawing and she just started making images as a way to be with all the many feelings she had about her life turning upside down and inside out. And she filled her house with her art. And she took her art with her to chemotherapy sessions and radiation treatment so she could have her own images to anchor her. And her images became messages, they became guides, they became companions, they became inspiration to her throughout her journey. I know another woman who fell in love with gardening, and she would tell me that the more difficult her life became, the more beautiful her garden became. And so again, it's like inviting creative expression in whatever way most feeds and nourishes. This is part of the big invitation in the expressive arts to really nourish our own well-being and to find things that we love, and how that in and of itself can be healing no matter what it is. Another woman spoke with me a lot through her own discovery of trying to understand how to relate to her body, as her body had completely changed through her journey of living with cancer. She made series of self-portraits, and one of the things that she told me that has stuck with me for many years is she said, "I may be scarred, but I am sacred. I may be scarred, but I am sacred." So the expressive arts invite us to really connect to what it means to be human, to connect to our own journey, both the joy and the suffering of life, to find a way to shape our lives, to become artists of our lives. So you're going to hear this evening some of the many ways that the expressive arts have been healing to the panelists here who are living with brain cancer. What I am so inspired by is how their own creative practices have shifted their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual states. And you'll hear about that. So it's really like when we are expressing ourselves authentically and freely, when we're tapping into our imagination, we're creating a nourishing space to honor all of our life experiences. And for the parts of us that long for expression, that long for witnessing, and that long for healing. So we come alive when we write poetry, or when we listen to music or dance, or open to the blank page of the journal and begin to tell our story or reimagine how we want to live. So the arts, this full palette of possibilities, invite us into our own healing journey. So I'd like to turn now to our panelists and just get to the heart of their stories and their ways of engaging with the creative arts for their own healing. And if you look at the word heart, in the middle of the word heart is the word art. So these are heart stories. These are art stories. And I'm so privileged to know each of these panelists through the Art for Recovery program at UCSF. Each of them probably will speak a little bit about their experience in the program. And this is our program for adult cancer survivors. And we hope that you who are watching today might become part of our community. So we're going to have 3 questions this evening. And the first one, we're going to turn actually to Kat first. And our first question is, what drew you to the creative arts after your treatment, and how have you incorporated the expressive arts into your life? And as we're zooming into each other's studios, I'll ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves as they answer this first question. So Kat, we'll begin with you, please.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to just say that I'm honored to be a panelist here today and to share my creative journey with others. I also want to thank Jena and Naomi and Mary for making this webinar possible. I view creativity as an important aspect of well-being and as we live our lives through cancer. So I really appreciate you guys offering all of these classes. I want to introduce myself. My name is Kat Shotz, and I was diagnosed in November of 2018 with glioblastoma. Back then, I'd never even heard of glioblastoma, so I didn't know what it was, and I knew I had this brain tumor and they were going to do surgery quickly. And I just was overwhelmed and shocked for a while, and then I became feeling a little helpless the more I read about glioblastoma. It wasn't good, and all the doctors were telling me that there was a 6 to 9 month survival period of this usually, and that I should get my affairs in order. So I went from living my life, I was a yoga teacher and I ate healthy, and I just felt like I had this life that I worked towards, and then all of a sudden I took this big right turn and everything was different. And so I did as I said. I started putting my affairs in order. I went and redid my will and my trust, and I even talked to family members about helping taking care of my kids if I were to pass. And that was also scary. You know, it was hard to think about that. I was devastated thinking about leaving my family. And then 2019 rolled around. So I went through the brain surgery, and then I was starting radiation treatment and chemotherapy in January of 2019. And 2019 was actually a big year for my family. My oldest daughter was having a baby, so I was going to be a grandmother, and I knew I wanted to stay around for that. And my younger daughter was graduating high school, so in that time frame I knew I would see these things, and that kind of held me together a little bit. And so I went through these events, and when I went through them, I realized that, wow, I really want to stay here. I'm not ready to leave yet, you know. And before I kind of thought, well, this is my path. I had a good life. It's okay for me to go right now. And then once I had these experiences with my family, I realized, you know, I want to be here. I have a lot more living to do. So, I decided to complete my standard of care, and I I felt like after my standard of care, I still had this long journey of healing in front of me. And so I decided to turn to like alternative treatments and alternative doctors. And there's a little bit more hope there. I read like Radical Remission, and I joined the glioblastoma Facebook page, and I started to see that people were surviving. It wasn't just you have 6 to 9 months and that's it. So I began to have a little bit of hope, and some of this hope started blossoming as I started feeling better. So it was a difficult process, and I was scared because my whole life had changed so quickly. I remember looking back at my life and thinking, you know, well, how did I get through other tough times in my life? And all of a sudden, creativity popped up into my mind. And I thought that creativity just really helped me stay present, and it helped me find a connection to myself. And so I knew I wanted to do more of that in my life. So that is when I became drawn to creativity. And I saw that UCSF was doing these wonderful healing arts groups, and especially through Zoom, it makes it so easy because I live further away from San Francisco. And so I was able to join. I joined several of these groups, and it was really helpful for me because I began to feel lighter, and all of my worries started to dissolve, and I felt freedom when I would create art. So I just wanted to say one thing, though, that I noticed if I was judgmental of myself or if I had critical thoughts about my art, that some of that would drop away. And so I really had to set some boundaries with my mind to say, you know, I'm not going to judge this. I'm just going to let it flow. And then the creativity began to flow through me, and it felt better. And all of these creative projects I've done are reminders to me that that I can express myself in different ways. And it's just been really heart-opening to me to have this. So I wanted to share with you guys my first piece of art, and it is a flower mandala. And a mandala, there it is, and basically a mandala is a meaningful circle. So this was in the first class, and I took the class with Jena. It was an amazing art class, and we had the beautiful harpist playing music for us. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for art, and I brought a pencil and pen, and I thought I would just draw something. But as I listened to this harp music, I closed my eyes, and I was sitting in the backyard. And when I opened my eyes, I saw all these flowers in my yard, and I saw this wash tub sitting against the fence. And so I grabbed that and I picked some flowers, and I began to put these flowers in a circle in this wash tub. So it was meaningful the way that I placed each flower in the circle, and the flowers' colors were symbolic to me. Each flower evokes meaning for me. So the red ones signified vitality and strength and healing energy, and the lavender offered me calmness. The mint gave me uplifting energy. The jasmine and the roses and the rosemary had strong scents to them, so it brought in another one of my senses. Each flower tells her own story. So then in the center, I placed this big granite rock that's in the shape of a heart. And I found this rock on a backpacking trip where I had this full backpack, and we were camping out. So I had a tent in there and all this, a sleeping bag. It was really heavy to carry, but I saw this rock and I really wanted to bring this rock home to my garden. And so it was worth the extra 5 pounds to carry it up and down the mountain. So just looking at these flowers and this old wash tub brings me peace. I'm so grateful to have collected such beauty from nature. And one of the ways that I incorporate art into my life right now is that I bring these creative art pieces into my home or into my garden. And every time I see them, it reminds me of you know, that there's magic here. There is possibilities in all of this. And so when I look at this one art piece, it reminds me to open my heart, to be present in the moment. And it evokes some magic for me. So this is kind of my new, that there's so many possibilities. And so this is one of my new mantras that came from this, is just knowing that there are so many possibilities, and I can choose different paths. It doesn't mean that I'm going to die from glioblastoma right now. So that's a nice mantra for me to be carrying with me right now.
Thank you, Kat. It feels like with your beautiful floral images, you are flourishing in your own creative process, and infinite possibilities are arriving in your life.
Thank you.
Ben, let's zoom over to your studio. I'd love to hear about how you found your way to using creative arts after treatment and how you incorporate the expressive arts in your everyday life.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you, Kat, for that wonderful mandala. It's really, really special, really beautiful, very refreshing and solid with that granite. Loved it. I'm Ben Pax, and thank you, Naomi and Jena and Mary, for putting this on today. And welcome to everybody who can make it today. It's wonderful to have you here. I was diagnosed with a subependymoma back in 2009. It's a low-grade tumor on my brainstem, and I had surgery at Kaiser. Grew back. I switched over to UC and got radiation. It kept growing, and I had another surgery in 2015, exactly 5 years ago today. Yay! So it's been a little bit of a ride. I had cancer before that as well, so I wasn't completely unfamiliar with the cancer world. And I had heard about art for recovery quite a few years ago, but I never decided to come. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I was over at the Osher Center in the Visionero, and I knew there was an art for recovery open studio across the street. So I went over there and checked it out, and I liked everybody. There was a guy from the brain tumor support group there that we meet on Wednesday evening once a month. And so I felt pretty much at home right away. At that time, they were making all these little 6x6 paintings for the new cancer center at Mission Bay. And they needed hundreds of them. So I got the idea, I'm going to make these. I started doing it. It didn't matter what you did, but we made them in sets of 4 typically. And we just cranked them out. It became a habit for me. I started going all the time. I'm also participating in the Firefly project, which is like exchanging letters with young people. A lot of them are medical students. I've done wild writing, which is expressive writing inspired by poetry, and that's through Art for Recovery. The Open Studio has been the most enduring fit for me, and I go almost every Wednesday. We meet for 2 or 3 hours, and we would sit around the table making art for an hour or so, or craft, whatever you really want to do, or nothing, whatever. And in the last half, we would just go around the room and share where we're at in our life, where we're at in our medical appointments, that kind of thing, and we can show what we're working on if we want to. Of course, now all of this is on a Zoom call. It still works, but we don't get to meet in person. The thing I want to emphasize is no experience necessary. And I say that it's kind of funny, but really, no experience is necessary. It can even be an obstacle to just enjoying the moment and learning stuff, because everybody else is doing something different. I have some examples of the 6x6 paintings that I made for the project. I'm trying to do something kind of inspiring, um, trying to make something kind of helpful to other patients. And this is from a climbing magazine I used to get. Time spent climbing mountains would not be deducted from your life. Might be true, I'm not sure. Here's a little thing, kind of, I don't know, some sleeping person in the field of sunflower is kind of cheerful. But I made a lot with no writing on them. Here's one I saw written on the sidewalk on Division Bureau. I won't give up if you don't. So I went into Art for Recovery and came up with this little cutout. Here's one from National Geographic, great images of animals. Won't you be my neighbor? Remember Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? I would be this guy's neighbor. And then the diamond in the mind is you. I got another way of saying is, you are the friend you seek. And this is kind of the message I learned from my journey so far through life. But the diamond in the mind, it's you, my friend, it's you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben, for all your inspiration. And chances are, if you have been to Mission Bay, you have seen some of Ben's art on the walls and the exam rooms. So Ben, you've been so prolific in your creative practice. It's very inspiring. Jennifer, let's zoom over to you. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you came to the creative arts after treatment and how you integrate the arts into your everyday life.
Okay. First of all, thank you for everybody who helped pull this together. It's been very valuable. I think for everybody who's talking and you who are listening to us, I just think it's helpful. My name is Jennifer Neale, and I had anaplastic astrocytoma glioma grade 3. And I was told that gave me 2.5 years to survive, and I better get a will taken care of. And I was so angry that I was being told to get a will taken care of. Of course, that was the first thing I did when I was discovered with brain cancer. And I, secondly, was so furious that anyone would tell me how much time I had to live. It's just my approach. I think that's why I was successful in business for a long time. There's no way you can let somebody else make that decision for you. So what I did was I called my tumor Boris, which is not a bad name if somebody's out there with a name like Boris, or loves somebody with a name like Boris. But to me, it was just a clever, easy flowing name, and I say a prayer to him every morning, and that's been for 23 years. So the doctors were wrong when I said I had 2 years, maybe 2.5. It's an exercise. It's the whole exercise in identifying that you've got cancer, that you're going through the medication that is required, going through the fact that your body is just collapsing. You have to rebuild it. And what I did was I said I was going to go back to work in 3 months. And I was a vice president publisher for McGraw-Hill, kind of publication I was responsible for, and I was not going to walk away from it. Well, I think that was a wonderful thought, but I got fired anyway. And that's another experience. I mean, you've not ever arrived at a key point in your life, and then have it being pulled out from under you. And that's how I felt. Everything was completely kaput. And I had to rethink, I had to redesign. And what I started by pursuing was textiles, fabrics. And I remember being in junior high school when I was told I could not use the sewing machine because I would always break it. So I was told I had to learn how to hand sew. And so my first year was textiles, and no lessons. I started fixing a tablecloth by hand, and it just, boom, it took off. A year later, drawing, painting, creating with my hands. It took another path. So I still sew, but I also do a tremendous amount of drawing. And some of my work is very fluid and textile. But what I found was an annual postcard, and it was right on around June when my tumor was discovered and removed. And so you'll see this was on my 9th year, and it was 2009, I believe. And you can see it starts with the little feet, the Japanese feet on their crazy shoes. You'll see the god here. I've written his name down. I don't want to mix it up. What is his name? Budhidharma. Sorry, Indian. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But he was working in the world from the year 5000 to 6000 BC. So he's 5th or 6th century, excuse me. And so you see all these pictures. Here we have a Ganesha, the god of wisdom and the remover of obstacles. You have a kite here with a banner that's flying off to recognize people that have mattered to me and people that still matter to me. And if you look at the back, I'm not sure if, yes, here we go. My friend, his name was Marcos, a very good friend. He was an artist. He and I would get together and talk about art, and everybody else was having another cocktail, and the two of us would talk. And here you see him painting a nude woman. He didn't always paint women, and they were not always nude, but this was one. And then you have a couple, a young mother and a child, and she's pulling up the curtain so she can see inside. And to me, this was a wonderful part of Mark because he did great work. And I just wanted to show you the first one for this was my 9th card, but this was the artwork. So I'll show you some more as we go on.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think it's so amazing that you create a special card each year. It feels like such a beautiful way to honor your journey and all the people who have inspired your life and touched your life. So I'm curious for each of you, what help or benefits do you feel the expressive arts offer you? So Kat, can we zoom back to you?
Yes, so I think the benefits of creative expression allow me to process new and old feelings. I love that it reminds me of all kinds of memories, and it also invites the idea that the possibilities are endless. So when I open up to the creative process, anything becomes possible, even healing GBM, right? And so that is a much better place for me to be in than the doom and gloom I was at the beginning of my journey. And I think that is due to creativity. So I really honor that, and I just really appreciate all the help that UCSF has in teaching us about this and letting us express it. I wanted to share my next art piece with you guys, and it's a rock that I painted in a class. There it is. And I kind of had a feeling I knew I wanted to paint a tree, and there's a tree on one of my hikes, and it's a beautiful tree. It's different than all the other trees around it. It's some kind of fruit tree, so it blooms in February, March, and it has these beautiful blossoms. And as I started, and that's another thing about creativity, you never know where it's gonna go. So I had this idea of this tree, and then I wanted to put the roots on it, because the roots, I was reading an article about trees and how their root system really, if one tree is more thirsty, they send water to that tree, and they really support each other. So I love that idea. I also had the baby birds up in the tree because I wanted to just remind myself about new life, that, new things are coming my way. And at this tree on my hikes, there is a big stone next to it. So I drew that stone in, and as I was drawing that stone, I remembered that there was this child's a nursery book I used to read to my kids called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. And Sylvester's able to make all these, he finds this magic pebble and he's able to make all these wonderful wishes. There we go. And so I put a little red pebble on top of the stone, and red for me signifies vitality and life force energy. And so every time I see that, when I walk by, it reminds me of all the possibilities in life, and that my energy is getting stronger and stronger every day. And it's just really great to have these little reminders as I go through my day. I catch myself looking at it. Oh yeah, everything is possible. So for me, that's a great place to be with. And I got there through creativity. So
thank you. Yeah, it reminds me how when we're engaged in our own creative process, images arrive that become healing companions, that become inspiration, like your magic pebble. So may we all have those magic pebbles in our art that inspire us and help us open to multiple possibilities. Ben, how about you? What benefits or help do the expressive arts offer you?
Well, I mean, peace of mind is the main thing, but like most of us, or many of us, probably all of us, when I was diagnosed, everything I thought my life was going to be like, it just crashed and derailed. And everything I planned was in doubt. I was afraid, I was angry, I was confused. All my strategies went out the window. And my mind would not leave me alone. It was just like churning and churning and churning. And I didn't think I could find peace of mind. When I got to Art for Recovery, and especially Open Art Studio, it turned out to be a place where I could let go of that churning mind. It's kind of like a meditation, and I found out there was no downside to that. I don't have to figure it out, which was good because I wasn't figuring it out. Well, how did this happen? I was baffled, and but that is a little mysterious. Why could I find peace of mind at this Open Art Studio? And I think the regularity of it, every Wednesday I would start heading over there, and that kind of helped. I was with people who understood what was going on. For me, I didn't have to explain it, but I could explain if I wanted. And I mean, doing the art itself, like craftsy stuff, whatever I did was a good distraction. And people would come, and then they would leave for an appointment, so it's very real at the same time. There's a lot of practical information there. I learned a lot about the medical system, all sorts of stuff. How to manage symptoms and side effects was great. And how to live life now that everything looks like it's going to be different. It also helped me keep stuff in perspective. I can go there and complain, how you can't believe this, and how it was so terrible, and why don't they do it this way? I can do it, and everyone would just sit there and smile, or do whatever. Who knows what they're thinking, but they're doing their art. But there was a limit on that too. Like, hey, I can complain, but the person next to me has something going on too. And so it kept everything in perspective. But the most important thing is watching other patients, the resilience, the courage, and how to live life with a big heart. And that was really pretty amazing to see that in a way where I couldn't avoid it. It was like right in front of me. And I've seen all sorts of stuff, but to see people live life in the midst of a very difficult health situation, it's just great. It was just great to see that. And so I would crank out these these there's some of the things I was showing you, some of these paintings, and I try to do stuff that reflects this. Like, here's a quote: "Rest, my friend. The mind will always send you on another journey." Yeah, the mind has a plan for me. I'm not so sure it's a good plan, but it's got me, keep me busy. And of course, the elephant remembers everything. I try to forget everything now. Here's one: never say of anything that I've lost it, but only I've given it back. And as I look at the stars, I don't look off in the distance, yeah. I look off into infinity, but I look off into eternity. And this is written by a Roman guy. I'm not sure what he's famous for. Writing quotes, I guess. Here's one by Rumi. A candle is made to become entirely flame. Yeah, I want to become entirely flame. And then here's one, self-explanatory, I would say. You are loved. Thank you.
And you speak about encountering courage and resilience and living with an open heart in your experience of the Open Art Studio. And that's my experience of how you live and how you express yourself in your art. So thank you. Jennifer, how about you? What help or benefits do the expressive arts offer you?
I think you need to acknowledge that you have another opportunity with life, but that doesn't come easily. In order to get to that point, you have to go through a lot of anger and a lot of frustration. And then one day, things just kind of, there's patience that you learn, there is creativity that you learn, but you're not going to go from being who you were to being this new person easily. It's a tremendous difference that you have to acknowledge and move forward with. When I went through my surgery, it was very deep in my brain. It was 9.5 hours, and I was possibly going to lose my ability to speak or to see. Well, at least it deafened this ear, so I can deal with the fact that I still see. But after the surgery, I had only 10 words that I could speak, and they were none of them making sense. There was nothing literal about them, and I would send notes thanks to friends of mine, and they would send notes to my husband saying, "My God, is this really the way she's speaking?" Some of them would say, "This is great. She's got the strength of character. She's going to survive." But a lot of people were fearful, and I insisted on seeing both an Eastern and a Western Indian, a doctor. I had, or Chinese, Eastern and Asian. I had a woman named Sue Lin. She was my third acupuncturist that I saw, who helped me speak beautifully on my 11th day after surgery. Now, that's a pretty good kick in the pants, a good way to make you think that there's another way to look at life. It's not just the way the doctors are saying it. It was going to take me 6 months of physical therapy, heart listening, and I actually give presentations to 40 people, 400 people, and I'm being told it's going to take me 6 months. No, I wasn't accepting that. So I see Sue again. I saw her 9 days before my surgery, and all of a sudden I can speak again. I thought my husband was going to lose the car keys. I mean, he was truly in a state of shock. So that was an experience, and that was something that was really valuable. But I was still going through my anger, my sadness, whatever's happening. And one day I was crying like crazy in the bedroom when we have breakfast. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm just crying." He said, "Do you know how many muscles you use when you are crying?" And I had no idea, but at least he caught my attention, and I shut up. And he said, 72. Do you have any idea how many muscles you use in your face when you smile? I had no idea, but he had my attention. He said, 14 muscles in your face if you smile versus 72. And it was like, bing, the bell went off in my head. I didn't have to worry about getting too many lines. I knew if I smiled more, life would be better, much better. And so that was a lesson I learned. And I wanted to talk to you about two more postcards. Yes, this is the first one. It's of my mother. It's not on, she's not on the front, she's on the back. But you're going to see this upside down and sideways. Again, there are so many different ways to look at what is here. You think you've seen it all, and you look at it again, you go, wow, there's more of a message. My mother had been very ill for the last 12, 13 years. She had lost control over her body. She could not walk. She was in a wheelchair. So if you turn it to the next page, on the back, yeah, here we go. Mother had died. But now, in my dream, she was standing upright on her leg. There's a garden in the background that she will walk into when she is ready to move. And it says, peace does not mean to be a place with no noise or trouble. It means to be in the midst of these things and still be calm in the heart. I think if you've been through brain cancer, actually any kind of cancer, that's a powerful thing to listen to. We have no control. None of us have any control. But you need to focus on the things that are positive when you're going through it. And for me, the real positive thing here was my mother's wheelchair is being tossed. It's going out the wall, out the door, where she is standing with her own 2 feet. And there's another one that was, what year was this? This is 2015. And there's something that you see here. There's a tiger. It's a Siberian tiger. And they're beautiful animals. They're very rare. I just had heard of them that year. And here's a man whose name is, I just want to get his name correctly. I'm going to forget his name. So anyway, he is Korean, I believe. And he would go up into the mountains and he would dig a hole. And he would sit in this hole for 6 months. And his wife would come up the hill with his food, just little bits of food. And he watched the tiger. And then he had done so much incredible work. There were a team of 3 American people who dealt with animals who had come up, and they were going to set up their tents, and they show up with tents, they show up with cooking devices, they show up with blankets. I think you have to look at the difference between East and West. You cannot work with rare animals if you're going to bring your Western approach. You need to learn a different approach, and that's what he did. I had been to Japan for my first time, and here's a wonderful thing if you turn it upside down. I guess you did. No, here we go. You see the lion, you see this beautiful tower, and there was something else that happened to me when I was going for my MRI, and I was still having like once every 9 months still. This was going on for quite a while. I took off all my jewelry, and my husband said, I'll take it for you. And I said, no, I'll be responsible. They were on my lap, and we get off in front of the parking lot in the back to get to the MRI building, and I dropped them. I had no idea what I had done. It wasn't until I was getting dressed when I realized that this was a problem. And I called the organization for lost events, for lost jewelry or clothing or shoes or whatever you lost. And everybody told me, well, we'll take the report, but you're not going to get it back. I mean, just our odds are. The next day I got a call, and I did get it back. It was a woman, she was a nurse, and her name is Caitlin Fleming Butabek. And she gave me all the jewelry back. It had dropped, and she must have been right next to me when she picked it up. I was going this way, she went that way. But it just shows that there are people in your life that you never would have counted on who are angels. It's like this man who worked for years with the Siberian tigers. It's like this woman who collected my diamonds, my pearls, my bracelets. I mean, it's just, she was an angel. So if you want to turn the next page real quickly. I don't know. Yeah, it's just, here's something else I found in Japan. Patterns, textiles, pots, pans. I mean, it was just wonderful. So that's something else I've learned is just be quiet, go out, listen.
Be quiet, go out, listen. I love it. And I love how you shift your postcards in different directions, upside down. It really encourages us all to look at life from multiple perspectives. And you've done that as you turned your smile to the world and as you have really become an artist of shaping your life. And
Yep.
for all of us, I'm just wondering, folks who are watching might be curious, like how do you get into the creative process? Like how do you begin to create all this art? So I'd like to come visit each of you once more and find out about how you physically or emotionally prepare yourself to engage in the creative process. Kat, let's start with you.
Well, this actually is kind of my favorite part of it. I love creating sacred spaces. So if I'm going to paint, I'll go ahead and pull out all my paints and what I want to paint on and have it out on the table, and maybe I'll light some sage and walk around or ring a bell, or sometimes I just want to breathe deeply. And when I do that, after a few breaths, like maybe 5 or 8 breaths, I begin to settle. My mind stops chattering so much and I feel much more grounded. And then that's when I begin to feel more creative, and then I can dive into it. And then I always remind myself too that this art is just for me. It's not to go hang in a museum or it's not to make someone else happy, but it's for me. And what comes out is also a message to me. And so it piques my interest to want to be creative, because I'm curious what's inside, what kind of things can I learn from knowing myself better. So this last piece of art that I wanted to share with you guys was a writing that I did. And I'm also in, there's a writing group for healing too, and I've joined that. And that's been really, really helpful for me, because with my brain tumor, I had a hard time reading and writing. And so, and I'd always written my whole life in journals, and that's how I discovered this brain tumor, was because I couldn't read and write very well. And so going back to writing was really hard, because if I misspelled something, or it just got me worried all over again. And so I really resisted this urge to write. And then when they came up, you know, we had COVID and sheltering in, and then here was this writing class for healing. And I thought, well, I might as well try it. You know, why not take a step out to do this? And it's really been an amazing experience. So this is a piece of writing that I did. It's called Going Deeper. I remember meditating before teaching a yoga class. I wanted to know the deepest parts of myself, and I asked the universe for this. I wanted to explore the inner world, my inner world, and I wanted to love myself deeper, more fully and completely. I also asked for insight so I could help others in return. My intention was to make the world a better place. I thought this idea of knowing myself deeper would maybe be a trip to India to meditate, or perhaps a yoga retreat. But life laughed at my romantic ideas. Instead of packing my bags to go to India, I found myself preparing for brain surgery. Somehow I made it through the 7-hour surgery. I am so grateful for the love and support from my family and friends and community. Now, every morning, as my eyes open, I am conscious of another day of healing. I am alive and so thankful. This is a big deal. This whole new day ahead of me. I begin my morning practice of self-care. This helps me mind, body, and spirit. Healing is a constant for me now. Since my diagnosis 22 months ago, I am drawn to the idea of healing my whole self. It's not just doing the standard of care, but it's about healing all of me, even the parts from a long time ago that are buried deep inside. So every day, I forgive, I love, I ground, I dance, I walk, I do yoga and meditate. Every day I connect with nature, I write, I create art, I juice, I eat healthy, and I offer love to myself and others. This everyday healing is a new way of life for me because my diagnosis is never gone. It is weaved into every part of my life. So now I know myself a little deeper and I love myself a little more. I know in my bones that so many possibilities lie in front of me. They can and they will unfold in time. Life is full of miracles. I remind myself of the beauty of being present in this moment right now. It is all we all really have. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pat. Ben, how do you mentally or emotionally prepare to enter into the creative process?
I don't have any just one way of doing it, but I try to keep a few things going, a few different projects going. Like I was cranking out those little 6x6ers. I have 10 more going out the door tomorrow. I think that's the last of them. And I do something a little bit bigger, like flower drawings on the kitchen table. And then I usually have something going in the garage, something that might take a longer time, maybe a month. I also like to find out what other artists that I love do. Like, so I've taken classes at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. You go online and take a free class. It's really great. Learn all kinds of interesting stuff. And I just do whatever feels like it's possible at that time. I listen to music. I'm into anyone asks me like soulful music if I'm in the garage, and I'll listen to meditation or spiritual stuff if I'm at the kitchen table. It's all available on YouTube, endless amount of it. And when I just get going, I try to feel an intuitive thought or action. Like often it's a color. Like I can feel a color. Like, oh, you know, that's the color. And I don't know anything more than that. And I wouldn't say that I prepare so much for art, but art prepares me for life. You know, art helps me get out of my mind and usually my unpleasant thinking process or fruitless, let's call it fruitless process, and to do something that has meaning but without value, you know. I've sold a little bit of art, but not enough to have any value. Not enough to pay for my crayons yet. Anyways, here's a couple more things that I do, that I've done at home. I'm doing these flower things. This is about 12 by 16 inches. Here's another one. I do roses, sunflowers, lilies, and here's a larger painting in my garage. This is what I worked on for a few months and never got finished, but I can always go back to it standing up in the corner. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Ben. Jennifer, how do you mentally or emotionally prepare to engage in the expressive arts?
With a pen. You have to be able to draw. I have 54, 55 booklets that are 5 by 7 that I have been drawing in since about 6 months after my surgery. So that's a lot of drawing. Sometimes it's just real quick and sketchy and scratchy and it doesn't really matter. And then others are beginning to definitely create a larger painting. It's similar. My style is different than Ben's, but similar to Ben's work that's larger. There are several different ways to look at art, several different ways to look at it. I think it's important for the viewer to look at the piece And it's also important for the viewer to dig deeply, which is why I do the annual postcards. Some people just go, wow, that was great. I like the initial story that you were telling, but others really, take a couple of glasses of wine and really work through the process and go, this is amazing. There's a piece that I wanted to show you. The symbol here is for, well, there, we'll just, it's upside down, but that's fine. This was year 2020. I thought it was going to be great. I was so happy. I liked the numbers. I liked where everything was going. And, look what happened to this year. It's completely wrong. Nobody likes what's happened this year. You've got this disease. But we have to live with it. And so here's a woman who is naked and she's holding one world upside down and the other one sideways. And she's wearing a mask and her hair is pulled back. And that's just a message for her. That's what she's doing. That's all she can do. You'll also see here, I'm not sure if my computer is going to help here, but there are 13 different types of masks that I built, that I made this year. I made over 100 masks for friends, and it was with Japanese fabric because I happen to love Japanese fabric. You'll see over here on the right hand side, given it's supposed to be on the left hand side, but that's fine. You'll see a peacock, and 2 of my really dear friends died this year. So there's a peacock there. Like I mentioned before, they're always acknowledged. And here's a brand new elephant on the left side. If you can turn it over though, I want to show you something that's really valuable. Some of my pieces have color in them. Most of them are black and white, and the only symbol of 14 for luck is there. But David and I went to Alaska last year for my birthday, and we went to the Denali Mountains, which are remarkable. And we took this old bus and lumbered up to the top, not clear to the top, but to the top of this path, and you see animals that you've never seen before, and it's fantastic. But after you've been sitting in a bus for 7 hours, and the only way back, you sit on that same bus for 6 hours, that's 13 hours in a bus, we said, forget it. So what we did was we flew home. We flew home in a small plane that sat the pilot and 5 guests. You're flying up through these mountains, and it's a 20,000-foot mountain. It's the largest one in Northern California, Northern United States. And there was a time when I could see the mountains with snow on them, and then this series was a V-shaped, but with soft edges, with color I had never seen before. And what I wanted to do was paint it with the color in my mind. The colors were beautiful, and I have photographs of it, but I wanted the color in my mind. And so I did it. I came home and I painted this. And what was so interesting is I had also been to a museum after the fact, and somebody else had seen the same color. So either she had my interpretation, make the color your color, or what you do is you paint it the way you see it, and look what you get. So this is just the last postcard, so you've seen several, and I hope that you enjoy them, especially this one.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Oh, when listening to all of you, my heart just feels so full, and I'm inspired. And when we were planning this webinar, I said to our panelists, each one of you could take a full hour to share your creative experiences, because you're all so prolific and also so courageous to live your life and explore your life through art, and really become an artist of your life. I am hoping that all of you who are viewing this are feeling inspired to pick up a paintbrush, or to doodle, or to sing, or to dance, or do something that brings you alive. And again, it's not about being a perfect artist, making the prettiest picture or writing the most beautiful poem. It's simply about expressing ourselves authentically and freely in the spirit of renewal and healing and creative well-being. So I'm thinking of these lines from the poet Mary Oliver. She gives these instructions for living life, instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. I feel like we've been practicing that this evening, paying attention, being astonished, telling about this amazing journey of living the art. So maybe you tell about your own journey, maybe you write, maybe you paint, maybe you dance it, may you be inspired from this time to nourish your own creative well-being. Naomi, I'll turn it over to you, and then we will move into our experiential part for those who want to stay and play and explore a little bit of the creative arts with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jena, Ben, Kat, Jennifer. My heart is full of inspiration right now, and I'm excited to do some experiential with those of you who are able to stay. If you are not able to stay, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you are inspired, as Jena said. We are going to send each of you a link to this recording when it's available, as well as some of the resources mentioned, as well as learning more about the artwork from some of our panelists and the programs that were mentioned from Art for Recovery. So thank you again. Our next webinar topic will be on cannabis. We're going to be talking about cannabis. And that's always going to be on the third Wednesday of the month at 5:30. So we hope to see you back again then for another interesting discussion. So thank you again.